Hello, my name's Emma Varnum and I'm a crochet designer and author, and welcome to my channel. I am really thrilled that so many of you joined me recently on the channel, and if this is your first time or one of the first times you've watched this vlog, you're really welcome and thank you for joining me. So this morning I had been on Instagram and I was thinking about good books that I've got and I have collected, and I asked a number of you on Instagram in the kind of crochet community what would be your favourite book. Essentially a book you wouldn't part with and a book that you kind of go back to for inspiration, or a pattern that you reuse all the time. So I think I'm going to probably do 2 episodes of this. I'm going to do a kind of book for beginners, book that is essentially a basic, but maybe something that I go back to all the time. I've actually got hold of some books that you've suggested. And so in between doing this episode, and if you've got another one that you'd like to put in the notes underneath this comments, if you'd like to put another one in, I'll have a look at it, because I've had some suggested and they're really good suggestions and I wasn't aware of them. So that would be good. And I've also went and bought a copy of a book I already had. So I thought I would give that away. I'm going to put all of the notes in the comments below. If they're my books, I'll do a tag to them. You can get them from my shop and you can get a signed copy from my shop. So I'll put those links in as well. But essentially that's what I'm doing. I thought I'd do a quick introduction of what I'm crocheting at the moment. Excuse me. So let's do that first. I am having a little play with this cotton and linen yarn, which I've got from one of my local yarn shops, Tangled Yarn in Poynton. They've a brilliant online online yarn seller, and I had a go at different stitches. I'm gonna it's this really nice cotton and linen and viscose combination, Sandnes garn, which is gorgeous. It's Norwegian. It's called Line. I'm sure I haven't pronounced any of that. And I am making nice little striped, very simple treble striped blanket. I'm having a go at that. I have a little idea in my head, so I'm having some fun with that. It's a really beautiful yarn. It's not cheap, but it's beautiful. So that's what I'm currently doing. I'm still doing my stash heap challenge, and I'm kind of just over halfway with that. But you know how it is, sometimes you just got to stop something and do something else. So that's what's on the hook at the moment. Not halfway through yet. I think it's going to be a square blanket when I've finished. But I'm kind of soft tones. You can guess, if you like, what kind of blanket it's going to be or who it's going to be for. So you can have a guess. So let's crack on with sort of beginners books, good books to have a look at and to go back to. So first of all, this is the book that made me think about doing a kind of book review. This book was really published when right at the beginning of the resurgence of crochet, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Sara hasn't written another book, I don't think, but the pictures in here are beautiful, and there are some really lovely images and some really great basic patterns in this book. You could get from an online retailer probably, and that I do spot them sometimes in physical bookshops, but you could get a really good second-hand copy. The apples, that was really fashionable right at the beginning of the resurgence of crochet, and it's a lovely idea. It's a great end-of-year teacher book, teacher gift thing to do, which is quite fun. But I was thinking about some of the patterns in here, and I go back to them. This is a pattern I go back to just very practically for the home all of the time, and sometimes I don't want to design, I just want to follow a pattern myself. This is one of those. So this is the reason, this book, and I'll put a comment, I'll put the actual book title in the comments below. I love this. It's a great book, and I'll just put the size. Sometimes you have to recognise, if you're in a bookshop, recognise it. There's a knitting one as well, which is very good. So Sara Sinaguglia, I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong, but that's a great book. I love that. So I'll also say that Tashdog08, who commented on my Instagram post, she mentioned this one, and this is the first edition, and this is the second. So I have patterns in this book. This penguin is mine on the front cover, and it was updated. This is the most recent. I don't want you to kind of, like, if you see both books in the bookshop, this is the updated version. The first version is this one. The great crochet designer and stylist Claire Montgomery sort of brought everybody together to create the patterns. So lots of people contributed to the patterns. I think I've got 5 or 6 patterns in this book, and I go back to some of those, and there's some great images, and there's some really great. I'll go into this one because I know it so well, but it's kind of a really good step by step. This flower blanket, which is so attractive on the front cover, is in there, and there's some really great descriptions and really good stitch patterns. Just show you an example. So it's quite good as a sort of beginner's encyclopedia, and you know from Dorling Kindersley, if they do a book, it's always going to have really great illustrations. So that's it's a good staple book to have in your library, and as I say, this is the most recent edition. So if you're looking out for it, that's the most recent edition. I think it's a good book to have in your library just to double check on things, and there's bunting, and it's quite good. It sort of divides it up into techniques, but also things like things for children. And there's a whole section on things for children. So bonnets are really in at the moment, not necessarily that colourway, but if you were looking for a bonnet, that would be a really good example. So I think with all of the books, really quickly in publishing or in kind of fashion, colours are changing all the time. And sometimes you have to just look at the pattern and then just imagine it in the colourway that you want. Sometimes you can be put off by a pattern because it's not in the colourway that we're thinking of. But don't be, because the stitches stay true all the way along. So this is a good book to have, and I have 2, but this is the first edition, and whenever I contribute to a book, I will always keep the original because it's nice to do. So these are 2 good ones. What else? Yeah, so Penny Tasks on Instagram mentioned this book, and I ordered it. Now, I couldn't get it from Amazon, sort of out of stock, but I got 2 books from World of Books in the UK, and they've got sort of out of date or secondhand books there. So I got this one, and the front cover was different. There's like a pineapple on the front cover of the one that's advertised, and so I kind of didn't recognise it, and I ordered this. I've already got this book, So I am happy to give this one away to anybody who, so if you would like a copy of this book, will you just make a comment and say something nice that you would like it, and I will choose someone at random to send it to. But it's quite detailed. There's quite some, the images aren't necessarily very now, but there's some really great basic instructions, and it's really detailed. And I think that's really helpful, especially for a beginner. So terminology, it's got a really good section on that. Hook sizes, it really breaks things down well, and things like the ball band, and it explains lots of things which after a while you forget that you know all these things. So, and it's quite, this cartoons on the front, it is actually, yes, it's many generations crocheting together, and that absolutely makes sense. The thing which Penny mentioned is it's got good instructions for left-handed learners. So that's worth you knowing. And I think that's frequently, and I even, I haven't covered that in my book. So this is a perfect explanation for left-handed learners, but it's also got some really good basic technical explanations. So having this really thin volume is worth having in your kind of crochet book library. And if you want a copy of this, I'm happy to send one to one follower if you just say why, and you just make a nice comment and share on YouTube. So just on YouTube. So great. In terms of beginners, look, I'm not going to, can't go through this and being an author and not mention my own books. I mean, I could, but that would be ridiculous. This is my book, How to Crochet. It has been, it's my most popular book, and it's been reprinted many, many times. My friend Jem Makes on Instagram suggested this one. I have taught many people to crochet through this book, and it has some of my absolute favourite patterns in here, and they're ones that I go back to. So these mittens I go back to a lot in terms for gifting. It's got lots of diagrams explaining how crochet, how you crochet a stitch, and it's got some. And this bunny is a great amigurumi starter as well. So this book I probably wrote over 10 years ago now, and I will give it to people who want to learn to crochet, and it's a good beginner's crochet. It has a handy inch rule down one side, centimetres down the other. So yeah, my friend Jem Makes on Instagram suggested this one, and I'm grateful for her. Also in this episode, I thought I'd mention Granny Square's Weekend, because this book I go back to a lot for my own making, and I'm going to show you the patterns I use on a regular basis, which are in here. There's a really great, so these mittens I make as gifts at Christmas frequently, and birthday gifts. They are my favourite thing to make as a gift. There's some great baby things in here, which I love making. This also, this beret is really, really good and useful and popular to make. And also there is an explanation on how to do sort of cheat edging. So take a basic blanket and then add an edging to it to make it crochet-fied, which is a great cheat, I think. Lazy edged blanket. So I love doing that. That's really helpful. This cowl as well. Imagine that with bright reds, pinks, greens, great colours. So this book, Granny Squares Weekend, is also really it's one of my favourites. I know I wrote it, but I do love it. In the same kind of vein, Strictly Hooked mentioned this one. I put it on my list. This is a great book. Look at the colours, similar vibe. There are some absolutely cracking patterns in this one. So I'm just going to find you one that particularly, so this obviously is gorgeous. That's the colour wheel hexagon blanket. She also has got some fingerless mittens in here, which are just gorge. Really, really lovely. And as you can see on the front cover, there's a great wreath as well. So I've picked this up, but I picked it up ages ago from The Works, which The Works, if you ever come across one of their bookshops, they do have a really good range of craft books in there. It's worth going through. Have a look on obviously an online retailer, but physically have a look at The Works if you're going past. If you're in the UK, World of Books probably have got some copies of this. I also mentioned, and Marta Mitchell on Instagram mentioned this one. This, look how old this is. Look, it's faded because it's been on my bookshelf for ages. This is a great repository of granny squares. Absolutely brilliant. And this idea is great as well. Now, colour-wise, you may be saying, ooh, I'm not feeling inspired. You have to look past the colour and you have to go, okay, yeah, no, I could use that really well. This is, look at this. This is a great mitered stick, very in at the moment, mitered square there. Great explanation with options of what you could put it with. So really worth having. Jan Eaton is an absolute classic. It's in the canon. Get hold of one, have it in your collection. It's a brilliant book. Along the same lines, somebody, and I cannot find the person who suggested this, but I got this. I didn't have this in my collection at all. And I think it's an American book. I got it from World of Books. This one was suggested to me. It is a really good book. It has the granny squares in this have a lighter, lacier look than Jan Eaton's book. Are a bit more flowery, but it's good to have both. I'm just looking through to kind of give you an example. There's some basics in here as well, but it's just got a really good range of slightly more light, lacy granny square look. And there's some really good technique sections and designs at the back. Now, I'm going to show you. It's really got some really good, so it's got really good diagrams of if you wanted to make some garments. That's not often done in crochet books, and I think it's really clever. So here you go. It's a granny square cardigan, very popular at the moment, and then she's done a construction kind of diagram. Let me find that for you here with really good explanation. It's quite good because it's got like a binder in the middle, so it kind of it's quite useful in terms of keeping the you know, keeping it out while you're sat down. But I think this is really good. It's got some really good different types of granny squares. I'm really grateful for the recommendation, and I got this from World of Books online, so worth having a look at. And then last of all on this collection, so I'm going to do a second episode, and if you've got if you've got books you want to add to this list for us to go through, please will you leave comments and I'll have a look if I've got them. So I've got a whole other pile here to go through. Those are going to be slightly more expert. So if you're saying to me, Emma, I suggested, around the corner crochet borders, this is in this pile, so I'll be covering that. And some of the other more complicated books. And I've got a couple of things I'm hoping are going to come through the post that I can share. But the harmony guides, the stitch dictionaries, and I've got knitting versions. These were done years ago, and I don't know if they are wondering about reprinting them. But this one was edited by Erika, who's an amazing designer, and Pet Lover Sewer suggested these as well. They are absolutely brilliant. And I have gone back to these stitch dictionaries time and time again, especially if I'm looking for a bit of inspiration. Might have lost my crochet mojo, my chromo. So really worth getting hold of these. If you see them in your secondhand bookshop, if you see them in your charity shop, if you see them online, worth getting hold of this. If you're starting out and you know that you're getting a bit hooked, pardon pun, but you think, actually, I love crochet, and you think, actually, this is worth having, because you can add in different stitches to your blankets and start growing your repertoire of different stitches. There are diagrams and there are very clear explanations about what to do, with a really good technique section at the beginning, basic section, really good diagrams, so worth having. So there you go, that's my fly through some absolutely excellent books that are in my collection. And I do get rid of some books that I think, well, it's not doing anything for me. But actually I keep hold of most of them because I do find myself going back to them. And I've got a collection of kind of vintage ones, which are really from the 70s and the 60s, which I find really helpful as well. So yeah, I love the books. I love all books. So really, these are my top tips. Please leave a comment. And if you've got additions that you want me to cover, I've got a pile here for a second episode, but I'm going to wait until I've had some suggestions from you. But thank you so much for joining me. It's really great that so many of you joined me recently. If you're enjoying this channel and you're enjoying sharing more crochet online via YouTube, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. It's great, and I love getting your comments. It's really wonderful. So thank you so much for joining me, and happy crochet.